Off.
Your mic is not working. It's got to turn it on.
Please turn your cell phones off.
Morning, folks. Yeah, it's working. Yeah, I think we're about to get ready, and as Peter just said, please silence your cell phones, and we'll begin.
All right, thanks. Well, thank you for coming. Before we start our discussion of 1984, I want to make some introductory remarks. Bear with me. When you were young and first read 1984, I bet you thought that can't happen here. Well, it's 77 years after the first publication of the book, and look at what's happening right now in the U.S., not to mention what has happened in Russia, China, India, and various Middle East countries. Democracy is on the wane, and totalitarianism in various forms is on the upswing here and all over the world. Orwell was indeed a political prophet. But how did this change occur? And why was Orwell so far-seeing? To begin, I want to recommend that you read for background understanding 3 books, 2 of which are available in the library. First is Homage to Catalonia. Orwell's story vividly and grippingly describes his experiences as a volunteer soldier who went to Spain in 1936 to fight against right-wing fascism, Franco's government, supported by the Nazis, and for left-wing Trotskyite democratic socialism, supported by Russian communists. Catalonia by Lionel Trilling. If you get this copy by Lionel Trilling. If you get this copy of Homage to Catalonia, Trilling's introduction is terrific. It's one of the best I've ever read about him. All right, now, second is Alex Navalny, was a Russian patriot who fought against the totalitarianism of Putin's Russia and for democratic rule, and ultimately ran for president against Putin, only to be imprisoned in a remote Siberian camp and finally murdered on Putin's orders, but only after having written Patriot and smuggled the pages out to family and friends. Book is powerful. I'll show this to you. It's really worth reading. This is a real-life story of a man who fought alone, really, against an absolute totalitarian juggernaut and lost his life, but he wrote this book. It's worth reading. The third thing I want to mention, third book, is Dorian Lynskey's The Ministry of Truth. Lynskey is a current British journalist and expert on Orwell's writings, and he vividly describes in The Ministry of Truth the full story of Orwell's sources, the actual composing in 1984, and the multiple effects the book has had on readers ever since. It's very enlightening. Now, while I'm on the subject of recommendations, I hope you all read Truby Rubin's and Will Bunch's opinion columns in the Inquirer. They really get what's going on in our country's politics and in the world's politics. Orwell would be proud of them. And also, I want to recommend this. I think this is a terrific magazine. This is last month's issue. It's about what we're going to talk about today. It's really good. The Atlantic. Okay, let's get to the book itself now. Over 4 weeks, we're dividing the book into 4 more or less equal parts. Today, we'll discuss up to the end of part 6, which is page 61 in this edition. If you don't, you have a different edition. Okay, let's get to the book itself. First question, what are your impressions of Winston Smith? the book's protagonist? Right.
I think the first question you have to ask is why you named him Winston?
Well, right. Well, it's Winston Churchill, obviously, right?
Book overall is very
Give him the mic.
Yeah, the question raised by the character Winston is, one, why did the author name him Winston? That's a reference to Churchill, we suppose, even though Churchill was a hapless totalitarian, more of an imperialist, I think. You asked, what do we know of Winston? Is that what you asked?
What do you
Well, he
think?
makes him very mortal, right down to the wound on his leg, which is rather an impressive detail. There are a lot of graphic details about him and other characters and the landscape and environment in the first half of the book, at least. So is that what you're inquiring about?
Well, I'm asking what, think about look at this character he's creating and just get your impression, why has he chosen this particular character to be his focal point?
He's questioning the system already.
The character himself,
The character is questioning the system
right,
internally at this
right,
point.
okay, that's one important thing. What else? What about the man himself? It becomes very clear what kind of person he is, right off the bat.
A failure.
Yeah, he's I don't know, that's exactly.
He's a failure. He's couldn't make anything of his love life, and he can't make anything of his job. He has the kind of job that most of us had. Just
Well, I don't
day in,
think,
day
yeah,
out.
I mean, he's not a great employee, but that's because he's got all kinds of issues with what he's dealing, he's serving.
Oh, he's got thoughts.
What?
He's got thoughts. He's a thinking man.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, you think of if you were writing a book about totalitarianism and you had a leading character, what kind of character would that person have? Because this is not, this is anything but a heroic person. Anything but an heroic person, right? So why does he choose? Look at what Winston does in the first few pages. And it's very interesting to
You're opening homage to Catalonia.
whoops, sorry. I'm 92 years old. Okay, let's look at the first couple of pages here. All right. You open up, he's sitting there by himself, and clocks are striking 13, which I love. And he says, even at the best of times, never mind. On each landing, opposite the lift shaft, a poster with the enormous face gazed from the wall. It was one of those pictures which are so contrived that the eyes follow you wherever you move. Big Brother is watching you. The caption beneath it ran. Now I think what he has in mind when he's writing the book is Stalin. And Stalin, you all remember Stalin's face, that aggressive, big face. And I think he's, just imagine Stalin's eyes following you, how creepy that would be, okay? And so he's looking at the telescreen. Now, how would you describe the uses of the telescreen in this situation? What's the difference between the telescreen and television as we know it? Okay, it's reversed. Think about how, I want you to think about this. You're walking along the corridor and you have a sense of eyes following you all the time. And you mutter to yourself, I can't stand this. And all of a sudden, somebody jumps out of the, it turns everybody into a paranoid wreck, right? So this is a very, very clever thing on Orwell's part to do this. So he's walking along. He says, bottom of page 2. You had to live, did live from habit that became instinct, and the assumption that every sound you made was overheard, and except in darkness, every moment scrutinized. This is a brilliant concept because this is paranoia, you're just, how you function. Okay, now, what is Winston's job?
His job, as he sees it, actually, and this is one of the things that makes him an interesting character, is obliterating the truth.
That's right.
That is, it is correcting, as it's called, or whatever, removing inaccurate, later disproved, or whatever items from newspapers or periodicals that turned out not to coincide with the current situation. And of course, if the current situation changes, there will be further changes. So he is. I mean, it is interesting that he knows what he's doing. He, in some ways, enjoys the, if you could call it, literary challenge of this. And yet, I think one of the things that makes him an interesting character is that he's trying unsuccessfully to remember what it was like before this. He's trying to think, was it ever the case that, you could actually know what happened, and or he sees this as, how impossible now it is to know what actually happened in the past, and was there a time before this?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have to also just add that although we don't have telescreens, we are under the same kind of surveillance not from the central government, but from social media.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I would never have one of those devices in my home that I could talk to and say, please turn on the radio, because it's listening all the time.
Yeah. It's really creepy.
Yeah.
And we can all relate to that. Okay, now, so he is working in this ministry of truth, which is a farce. I mean, truth is just substitute lies. Love substitute hate. It's everything. Everything is a lie. Everything. And does it remind you of?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's one of his vehicles here, to use very strident examples showing you how strenuously the totalitarian system can reverse our daily expectations. There's a parallel between the very first sentence of the book, The Clock Struck 13, and the very first sentence of a famous essay that G.K. Chesterton wrote, which began, "Something more must be said about the Bolsheviks' decision to eliminate Sunday." The Bolsheviks
Orwell probably read that.
eliminated Sunday as a day of the week, and then they later tore out all the church bells. There are many references to church bells in this novel.
Oh.
The Bolsheviks, the early commies, tore out the church bells, and Yeltsin restored them.
Oh boy.
But they used a lot of church bells to make cannons for World War II, so it helped.
First things first. Yeah. Okay. So he's doing this work, so to speak, and he has said is on page 4. He has set his features into the expression of quiet optimism, which it was advisable to wear while facing the telescreen. So every moment he's acting. He's pretending, you know. And think about the strain that must be on your brain, and it just to go on and on and on and on with this. All right, now, so he wants to on page 6. Winston wants to open a diary in this weird situation. This was not illegal. Nothing was illegal since there were no longer any laws. Sounds like right now. But if detected, it was reasonably certain that it would be punished by death, or at least by 25 years in a forced labor camp. So what does he do?
He finds a place to sit where the telescreen would not see what he was doing.
And he opens a diary.
And he opens the diary then and begins.
So he's on dangerous ground right there. Now, on page 6, for whom it suddenly occurred to him to wonder, was he writing this diary? For the future, for the unborn. How could you communicate with the future? It was of its nature impossible. For weeks past, he had been making ready for this moment, and it never crossed his mind that anything would be needed except courage. The actual writing would be easy. All he had to do was transfer to paper the interminable restless monologue that had been running inside his head. Now, this is a really interesting psychological picture. He's in this situation. He's working for this totalitarian regime. But somehow the human being has not been erased from him. And he's trying to maintain his humanness somehow under extreme duress. But it's the drive. He has to do it. He has, and this is where we can connect with him. You know, what do you do if you're trapped in a situation like that? What will we do? Sitting in one of these little, it's awful. So he's right. He's trying to work out his own thing without being caught. Then he sees all these people. There's a man on page 9. Interesting thing. The other person was a man named O'Brien, a member of the inner party and a holder of some post so important and remote that Winston had only a dim idea of its nature. Momentary hush passed over the group of people around the chairs as they saw the black overalls of an inner party member approaching. O'Brien was a large, burly man with a thick neck and a coarse, humorous, brutal face. In spite of his formidable appearance, he had a certain charm of manner. And he goes on and on and on. And he says, Winston, he was intrigued by the contrast between O'Brien's urbane manner and his prize fighter's physique. Much more, it was because of a secretly held belief, or opposed, not even a belief, but really a hope, that O'Brien's political orthodoxy was not perfect. Now, of course, we're going to meet O'Brien again down the way. This is our addition, our introduction to him. And,
Peter,
yeah.
Sorry, I had it's me here. I had a question back on page 3, which I hate to take you back to, but
Okay,
it reappears throughout it, and I didn't understand
All
it.
right.
And that's the war is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. Now, I get the last two, but I don't understand war is peace and what that means. Or where is taking that?
It means that you can do anything you want. That the administration can do whatever it wants because if there's a war, they say, "Oh, it's peace. We're
Okay, so it's deja vu all over again for today, right?
Think of the Trump administration.
Okay.
I was thinking of the change from the Department of Defense to Department of War.
Yeah,
The way
yeah,
you could just change the mission just like that.
yeah, Pete Hegseth, thug in charge. Yeah, well, let's go on here. As okay, so we see him, he's doing his job, but he's got all these things running around in his head, and he's being torn like this. Now, on page 10, there's an interesting thing that happens. There's a screech, and something appears on the screen, and it's the face of Emmanuel Goldstein, the enemy of the people. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's what he's doing. It's given. It's supposed to be.
I said Trotsky.
It's described as a Jewish face, and you go back to Trotsky and Lenin and that battle, and there you are. So Goldstein's the face of the enemy, and and then when you have your 10 minutes of hate or whatever, you scream at that face. And what does that mean? If you happen to look like that face, you're washed out. Okay, now we go on to so his paranoia. Let's just see this here. Wait a minute. Okay.
Peter,
Yeah.
I need to, when he starts writing the diary, and I need to speak about this because it's hard for me to grok. He's not sure what year it is, and he's not sure how old he is. That his sense of self and where he is in the timeline of existence is somewhat obliterated.
That's what the state does. Yeah. But why does he want to write a diary?
For the future, because history is being rewritten and erased as it is now.
Does he think there's going to be a future?
I'm not sure.
He's ambivalent about it.
I think the urge to write a diary just shows us, the readers, that he's human,
Yeah.
despite the state's best efforts to dehumanize. He is human. Yeah.
It seems like the writing of the diary is finding something else to talk to.
Yes.
I mean, in other words, he's so alone and so fearful of speaking out that at least he can speak the truth to his paper.
That makes
on
sense,
paper.
doesn't it? Yeah.
Of course it does.
Yeah.
And diary keeping and journaling, and I mean,
Mhm.
that's what we do,
Of course,
as
if
humans.
he's caught, he's dead. But it's so intense, the need to retain his humanity.
Because he can't turn to his neighbor.
Oh God, no.
Yeah, exactly.
No, he can't turn to his neighbor's kids either.
I also thought the diary was his effort to preserve history, so he could at least have something that was real to give to the future.
That's a very good point. Yeah, because the history, the group that's running this place wants to obliterate history, and just rewrite it in their own terms. So there is no. What happened yesterday?
I have a clipping here from the New York Times about 2 weeks ago from a letter that was in the op-ed page. And I wonder, I am forced to wonder now if that long ago German diarist wasn't evil after all, if he'd been led to believe by a terrorizing state that what he was doing was good, that he was defending his nation from undesirables, that he was a hero. I mean, that would fit right in this book without a pause.
Oh, yeah, yeah, Orwell would know that. He'd seen the Nazi situation, of course, and he knew that. He would really approve of that, Now, the trouble with poor Winston is he's stubbornly human, despite everything. And of course, he's sex starved. When do we find out about his marriage, by the way? That's almost comic in its horribleness. What happened in his marriage? It's listed. It's there. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is part of the total campaign of dehumanization of the state, and part of it that is people are. The state is trying, as he puts it here, trying to obliterate all pleasure, and so that sex becomes a marital duty to produce children for the state. It is regularized. It is prefaced by, "This is our duty to the state." Nobody should show any pleasure at having a sexual experience, and people who were attracted to each other were never allowed to marry each other.
Sounds great, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Oh, dear. Okay. All right. Now, you got the sex problem here, and then we've got the hate problem. And back on page 13, the hate scene, the face of Goldstein is on the screen, and people are screaming and yelling and so forth. And it's just, and then the same moment, drawing a deep sigh of relief from everybody, a hostile figure of Goldstein melted into the face of Big Brother, black-haired, black-mustachioed, full of power and mysterious calm, and so vast that it almost filled up the screen. Everything's okay. Big Brother's here. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Right now? Okay. Now we have on page 14, we have the three slogans of the party. War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. I like especially this ignorance is strength. What sort of education goes on in this world? I mean, if you're going to change things, you start with education. What kind of education is there? Yeah, Susan?
Fred's got the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think Jim was raising his hand.
I think the element in this story that drives it is that Winston, he looks like a wimp, but he starts taking more and more chances. A glance is dangerous, but he starts glancing, and then he gets this book, this diary book, and then he meets this woman. He takes more chances, very dangerous.
But he's impelled to do it, isn't he? I mean,
Yes.
By his innate humanness, which has not been rubbed out somehow, despite the party's best efforts. Yeah. Okay.
Peter?
Yeah.
I'd just like to comment that Orwell sets up a very convenient plugged up sink for Winston to have to solve for Mrs. Parsons. And that introduces those two intolerable children, which actually becomes a way of showing how is it that they have exercised such incredible control over the population. And those children have been so completely indoctrinated that they're pelting him with, I don't know, grains of something as he leaves because they suspect him. And that corroborates for him that he is not above suspicion. So he's so aware of how endangered and disempowered he is And all the other characters that he meets, Mrs. Parsons is an example too. People are just completely dehumanized. So it's really from the get-go pretty scary stuff.
Well, that business of conditioning of the children is
Yes.
terrifying. We see again and again, stories of somebody reporting somebody, some little kid, and I mean, it's just, it's awful. Okay, so let's see how this continues to work out. On page 16, the trouble with Winston is he's one of these intellectual people who thinks too much. And he's sitting there, torn, he's always torn and so forth. And he starts writing down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother. And over. he's just, he can't stand it. The thought police would get him just the same. He had committed the essential crime that contained all others in himself. Thought crime, they called it. Oh boy. And then there's, there's a paranoid thing he's going through here. He's thinking of people being arrested in the middle of the night and disappeared, and he starts to write in hurried, untidy scrawl. They'll shoot me. I don't care. They'll shoot me in the back of the neck. I don't care. Down with Big Brother, they always shoot you in the back of the neck. I don't. He's losing it, and he has a terrible time. He's controlling himself. And think what he has to do every day. He's got to go to work, and he's got to go through all this rigmarole, and inside, he's seething. This is his humanism. Okay, now, on page 20, Winston is cleaning up something, and he went back to the other room. Up with your hands, yelled a savage voice. A handsome, tough-looking boy of 9 had popped up from behind the table and was menacing him with a toy automatic pistol, while his small sister, about 2 years younger, made the same gesture with a fragment of wood. So Winston puts up his hands and, "You're a traitor," yelled the boy. "You're a thought criminal. You're a Eurasian spy. I'll shoot you. I'll vaporize you. I'll send you to salt mines." Now, where does that all come from? The kid is maybe 7. Drill. Constant. It's just, and then down at the bottom of page 20, they're talking about, "Why can't we go and see the hanging?" roared the boy in this huge voice. "Want to see the hanging, want to see the hanging," chanted the little girl capering around. I don't know, nobody here has ever seen a hanging, I suppose, but I can't imagine what this. And yeah, and this is little kids, and they're all enthusiastic. Talk about.
Well, but no, well, well, not only were lynchings, in the as Eileen just said, public hangings of a sort, but it was true that when hanging was common in England, it was a public spectacle, and people, and it was a popular public.
Yeah.
So it's not hard to think that they could get children to want to see the hanging.
Yeah. And Orwell, of course, being a Brit,
Right.
is well aware of that. He brings that in. That's absolutely right. But see, the whole, it's a wonderful study of how to condition people from childhood up. It takes conditioning. And when they're adults and that conditioning has taken place, they're hopeless. You've got it forever. This isn't a stupid thing the party is doing, but it's absolutely vicious. All right, let's go on to let's go on to page 25, part 3. So what's he doing there? He's dreaming of his family. He must, he thought, have been 10 or 11 years old when his mother had disappeared. Think about that. Disappeared. And never seen again. He couldn't, look, next page, he couldn't remember what happened, but he knew that in his dream that in some way the lives of his mother and his sister had been sacrificed to his own. What's that mean? Tragedy, he perceived, belonged to the ancient time, to a time when there were still privacy, love, and friendship, and when the members of a family stood by one another without needing to know the reason. All right, so what's happened? Well, privacy's been eliminated, love's been eliminated, friendship's been eliminated, and it's just think about living in a world like that.
Peter,
Yeah.
I don't know what page you have, but when he is dreaming, he hears an anonymous voice enunciating, "We shall meet in the place where there is no darkness."
Oh, yeah.
That's very important to keep in mind.
Oh, yeah.
Because, to coin a term, it's foreshadowing of what happens much later on during
Oh, yeah.
O'Brien's
Yes,
Inquisition questioning
exactly.
of him.
O'Brien.
And
yeah.
it's a controlling image in the book.
Uh-huh.
The reader is put to the task of asking herself, what is this place of no darkness? How am I going to define it? And I think respectfully, the action, such as it is, in the balance of the book, fills you in on what the place of no darkness might be. And then you learn at the end of the book what it might be.
Yeah, okay. It's a good, think ahead about that. Good word, good term. Now, he has this dream. On page 27. The girl with dark hair was coming toward him across the field, with what seemed a single movement. She tore off her clothes and flung them disdainfully aside, and blah, blah, blah. With its grace and carelessness, it seemed to annihilate a whole culture, a whole system of thought, as though Big Brother and the party and the thought police could be swept into nothingness by a single splendid movement of the arm. That, too, was a gesture belonging to the ancient time. Winston woke up with the words Shakespeare on his lips. Now, it's a wonderful image. This is an image of total freedom, and it's what has been lost, and it's what we're seeing in Winston is the human being struggling against being a member of a totalitarian society. It's terrible. Okay, let's move on to page 30. They're doing calisthenics. All of you use the place here. Think about this. Winston's out there dutifully doing what the party tells him to do, all the calisthenics. Winston sank his arms to his sides and slowly refilled his lungs with air. His mind slid away into the labyrinthine world of double think. To know and not to know, to be conscious of complete truthfulness while telling the carefully constructed lies, to hold simultaneously two opinions which canceled out, knowing them both to be contradictory and believing in both of them. Think about the strain of having to be in this world of double think. It's awful. Okay, let's move on to he's sitting in his office and on part 4, page 33, and he's
Well, actually, sorry, Peter, it's a
What?
comment.
yeah.
This,
Hold it to your mouth.
Hold the mic right
yeah,
in your mouth.
then he passed into history, then the lie passed into history and became truth. And I can't help but thinking of the insurrection, that January 6th.
Oh yeah. This is one of the reasons we're discussing this book.
I know.
The parallels are uncanny, and it's an important thing to just keep in mind. This is our society, right? And this is this very fascistic society here. It's very, very similar. Okay, now here we on the he's doing the calisthenics, and while they're doing the calisthenics, what's going on? Well, the giant TV is on.
Yes.
Okay, so it's relentless. So whatever you're doing, eating lunch, working out, there's the thing. It's awful. Page 35. The process of continuous alteration was applied not only to newspapers, but to books, periodicals, pamphlets, posters, leaflets, films, soundtracks, cartoons, photographs, to every kind of literature or documentation which might conceivably hold any political or ideological significance. Day by day and almost minute by minute, the past was brought up to date. In this way, every prediction made by the party could be shown by documentary evidence to have been correct. Nor was any news or any expression of opinion which conflicted with the needs of the moment ever allowed to remain on record. Now, can anybody think of a very recent series of examples of this exact same thing in real life? Oh, boy. Listen, it'll be 2100 before that comes out.
The Trump administration seems to be trying to control things, CBS News and so on, shut down NPR, and anything they don't like, they put a lawsuit against. So this is kind of a modern day
Yes, it is.
application of it.
And this is one of the reasons why we're discussing this book, because what's beginning to happen in Washington might end up a total calamity. Read what's happening, like your example. It's happening all the time. This push toward the totalitarian regime. It's frightening. And this book is so important because it gives you the wonderful vision of how this happens. How it's awful. Now here on page 35. Okay. Books also were recalled and rewritten again and again, and invariably reissued without any admission that any alteration had been made. Think about that. Think about if books were taken from the library now and rewritten, and you're only allowed to read what was rewritten. What would you find? It's not beyond, beyond possibility. Okay. Now, what's Winston's job? Rewriting history. Now, think of the ironies of this. His job is to rewrite history for the government, but he knows what he's doing is absolutely false. I mean, it's you can't imagine what the pain of this must be. Then you get the in 1984 you get the misinformation industry. What do we see happening right now in Washington? What's happening right now?
Rewriting history.
Give us an example of what an attempt to rewrite history that's going on right now.
Peter, over here.
Texas and Oklahoma now have in their high school curricula that the 2020 election was erroneous and that it was corrupt.
That's good. Okay.
I'd like to reflect for just a minute.
Hold the mic up.
I'd like to go back to the beginning of our conversation with the diary and the fact that he's the power of words, the power of communication, and the fact that they're rewriting history, and what you just indicated in Oklahoma shows the power of words. And I was reminded of the diary of Anne Frank as connecting with the diary. Also, the beginning of John's gospel, in the beginning was the Word. So the power of words and the power of thought, and the fact that he's torn between having to change it and having to recognize his own impulse to try to find some semblance of truth.
It's a very powerful.
Yeah, I just wanted to answer your question. What's happening right now?
Yes.
It's the Good incident, the murdering of Good by the ICE agents, right? They're trying to change history right before our eyes. So we're seeing it play out right now.
That's exactly right. And keep tuned because it happens every day. There's something that's happening like that.
But I'd also like to point out that it's in some ways so much easier now because of social media. That is, you don't even have to bother to falsify things. You have a whole world full of people, a whole universe of people who are writing the strangest falsehoods, and they develop followings, and it really doesn't matter even what the official records say.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And so it is happening because of the way the media has developed. It's happened.
Happening now this morning. Yeah, he did it today, this morning on TV.
What?
Trump changing history.
What did he say?
Joan, pass it back.
He's at Davos and he's just spewing one lie after another. He's saying that we once owned Greenland and that's why he wants it back. And it is appalling what he is saying to all of those nations and putting them down and saying how many years America has carried them all on our backs. And it was just so upsetting to hear him. I can't stand him, but I really needed to listen to what he was telling the world, which is terribly appalling.
Do you think he believes what he says?
Some people do.
No, whether he does.
Well, see, again, this is why we're discussing this book, because this kind of thing is happening all the time, and it's getting worse. And what are we doing about it?
Yes, sorry. Go ahead.
I think he believes that if you say something over and over and over again, it becomes true.
I think you're absolutely right.
He does not know what the truth is, I don't believe, but I think he tells himself over and over, and then it's gonna become a reality.
And the trouble is he's surrounded by yes men who will never, ever tell him he's wrong. I mean, over here.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I do think that while the press can also help with the resistance, in other words, I think that one of the things that's different from Orwell's, from this period is our own social media on the positive side. I mean, the resistance is growing because of social media.
Right.
I mean, I think the spreading of falsehoods is also spreading, but, so it's the balance of whose voice is going to be louder and who will attract the most, most people behind which side.
Yeah.
And I think that's the continued.
Well, even newspapers that aren't under control, like the Washington Post, sort of laying his back and wiggled his toes when Trump came down on them. That hasn't happened in the Philadelphia papers or New York papers. And as long as that hasn't happened, at least we're going to get truth from them. That's where we get. That's where I get mine.
Not from CBS anymore.
Well, that's TV, and that's different. That's different. Yeah. The print, if there's ever a shutdown of newspapers, federal shutdown of newspapers, we're in real trouble. And even though the Washington Post did cave in on some, and that really sort of neutered them. But let's just hope that the other media can remain independent.
So I just comment about truth, thinking of a down-home example where a crash occurs. And if you talk to the driver of one car and talk to the driver of the other car, one will say they were going too fast. The other will say, no, I wasn't going too fast. One will say the light was red. No, it had just turned from green to yellow. In your own head, you tend to develop a way of thinking that justifies whatever it was that you were doing. Multiply that by 100 or 1,000, and you got what probably goes on in Donald Trump's head when he tries to explain how he lost the 2020 election, for example.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to get into a rant about Trump.
Speaking of social media, the story about the husband and wife sitting in their living room one evening, and the wife said to the husband, "Why are you speaking so softly? Mark Zuckerberg may be listening to me." The wife laughed, Cyrus laughed, and Alexa laughed.
That's good. Okay. Now we go back to Winston here on page 38. His job. Just to think. I mean, think of having his job. What you're doing is you're manufacturing lies, and you know you're manufacturing lies. And how can you live with yourself?
Earlier it says he enjoyed his job.
Well, yeah, he enjoys it because he's clever, and he likes dealing with words and so forth. Okay. Let's go on to page 41. The story of Comrade Ogilvy. This is classic. this is what's circulating as truth. At the age of 3, Comrade Ogilvy had refused all toys except a drum, a submachine gun, and a model helicopter. At 6, a year early, by special relaxation of the rules, he had joined the spies. At 9, he had been a troop leader. At 11, he had denounced his uncle to the thought police after overhearing a conversation which appeared to him to have criminal tendencies. At 17, he had been a district organizer with the Junior Anti-Sex League. At 19, he had designed a hand grenade which had been adapted by the Ministry of Peace and which at his first trial had killed 31 Eurasian prisoners in one burst. At 23, he had perished in action, pursued by enemy jet planes while flying over the Indian Ocean with important dispatches. He had weighted his body with his machine gun and leapt out of the helicopter into deep water, dispatches and all. An end, said Big Brother, which it was impossible to contemplate without feelings of envy. Big Brother added a few remarks on the purity and single-mindedness of Comrade Ogilvy's life. He was a total abstainer and a non-smoker, had no recreations except a daily hour in the gymnasium, had taken a vow of celibacy, believing marriage and the care of a family to be incompatible with a 24-hour devotion to duty. He had no subjects of conversation except the principles of Ingsoc, and no aim in life except the defeat of the Eurasian enemy and the hunting down of spies, saboteurs, thought criminals, and traitors generally. Doesn't that sound like Pete Hegseth? This is a little ironic footnote. Winston debated with himself whether to award Comrade Ogilvy the Order of Conspicuous Merit. In the end, he decided against it because of the unnecessary cross-referencing that it would entail. It's wonderful. Okay, now he goes back on the next chapter, starting on 42. He goes back to work, and he's talking with his colleagues, and it's really, I mean, it's like talking to Trump's to colleagues in Trump's administration. Now this, okay, what are they working on? Page 44. This is wonderful. What are they working on? They're working on the dictionary. Now think about this. He had brightened up immediately at the mention of Newspeak. Because the 11th edition is the definitive edition. We're getting the language into its final shape, the shape it's going to have when nobody speaks anything else. When we're finished with it, people like you will have to learn it all over again. You think, I dare say, that our chief job is inventing new words, but not a bit of it. We're destroying words. Scores of them, hundreds of them, every day. We're cutting the language down to the bone. Okay, so what happens after that? I mean, what happens when you've done that? There's no language to express your opposition.
Or even think you're up.
Or even think your opposition. They've destroyed language and thought. Yeah. Oh my God, it's that time already. Sorry. Okay, we'll take up from here next week. Thank you for coming, and I appreciate your input.
Thank you, Peter.
No, I didn't even know.
One additional comment. You may have seen the forum email I sent around, but the movie 1984 is available on Amazon. You can rent it if you're not a Prime member, or it's free if you are a Prime member. There's also one called Orwell, which is a little more expensive to rent, but draws this connection between the book and current day
Somebody
events.
sent me a flyer about that. Was that Susan? No, okay.
Well,
I think that Susan.
I sent the
what
email
about-
around.
What about the film?
So
That was you that sent me that.
there's a film getting, film getting great reviews, a documentary about Orwell and the writing of 1984. The film is called Orwell, 2 + 2 = 5, which is a direct quote from the book. The DVD is on order with Ken Garson. When it's in, Peter and I are going to watch it, and Peter will decide the best time and place for showing it in relationship to the teaching of the class.
Not yet.
I don't think you can stream it yet, but I don't know.
Did you say you can stream to that one?
No, you don't.
You can stream either of those, because we streamed the 2 and 2 and 5 Orwell last weekend.
You did? You
Uh,
did?
Yeah, it was on, I think it was on Amazon, might have been Netflix,
Oh,
one of
so
those two.
if you want to get a jump on us, you can stream Orwell, 2 + 2 = 5.
And also the movie, and the movie itself, 1984, is available from Amazon.
Oh,
Comments?
okay.
It's 2 +
Thank you, everybody.
2 + 2 = 5 is somewhere in here.
When we were living in Iran, we were afraid to talk about the Shah. So, and